Here are a couple of sum and difference of angles problems. So typically you're going to have two angles that you're working with. I've got two to start with here, and you might have to figure something out about those. So first off, what are we? We're in the fourth quadrant. It'll shock you that I believe in pictures. So we're in the fourth quadrant. Cosine is 1/5. So we got something like this. Adjacent over hypotenuse is 1/5. Okay, and what's this side going to be? Well, you're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So 1 squared plus, y squared equals 5 squared. That's 25 minus 1, so y squared equals 24. This is negative. The picture helps me remember that because I'm in the fourth quadrant. So this is y equals negative the square root of 24, or you could reduce that. That's the square root of 4 to root 6. Okay, and then if tan w, what is that? That's the third quadrant, is 6/5. So that's because this side is -6, -5. Those both have to be negative. Rise over run. So what's this going to be? 5 squared, 25, plus 6 squared, 36. 25 plus 36 equals 61. So this is the square root of 61. Okay, so those are sort of the setups for these kind of problems. Now, these are going to be dependent on you knowing some basic formulas. Those formulas, sine of, let's say, a plus b with two angles is sine cosine plus cosine sine. Sine cosine plus cosine sine. Okay? And what I mean by that is sine A cosine B plus cosine A sine B. Okay? Now, you can see this using sort of symmetry, but if this was A minus B, the only difference is this would be a minus. So if that's a minus, that's a minus. Sometimes what people write in there is they write plus minus and then plus minus. Now the cosine of A plus B is cosine cosine minus sine sine. Cosine cosine minus sine sine. So then I'm going to fill in AB, cosine A, cosine B, minus sine A, sine B. And if this were minus, you could sort of see that negative sine B, if there were a negative B in there, that would actually change the sign there. So these signs are opposite, okay? So that's essentially what I'm going to use right here. Cosine of u plus v, well, that's cosine cosine minus sine sine. So I'll write it out on the first one and maybe not on all the rest. Cosine cosine minus sine sine. Well, let's see. Cosine of u, that's 1/5. And what you'll notice here is the denominators are pretty much always going to be the same between the two terms. Okay. Cosine of u, sine u is going to be -2 root 6 over 5. So we got a 5 in both denominators. Cosine of w, let's see, that's adjacent over hypotenuse, is -5 over root 61. And then sine is -6 over root 61. Whatever you do, don't cancel the 5s. You want that common denominator of 5 root 61. So what we have here, it seems, is we have minus 5. And then here, let's see, minus minus minus. So that's still minus 12 root 6. Okay? And we could do the same thing with sine, right? Sine negative is sine cosine minus cosine sine, right? UW, UW. So let's see. The sine of u is -6 root 61. Whoa, oh, wrong one. Sine of u, I need to be looking over there. The sine of u is -2 root 6 over 5. The cosine of u is 1/5. The cosine of w is negative 5 over root 61, and the sine of w is negative 6 over root 61. So what's that come out to? Well, the denominator is 5 root 61 again. This is going to be 10 root 6 plus 6. What about these down here? Notice here, one of them is what I have. This is going to be sine cosine plus cosine sine. But what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to say I already know what sine and cosine of pi fourths are, right? So I'm going to put together what I have and what I don't have. Sine of u, going clear back up here, right, is negative 2 root 6 over 5. Cosine of pi fourths, that's root 2 over 2, right? Let's see, and cosine of u, that's 1/5, root 2 over 2. So let's see, what do I have? I have tenths in the denominator. This actually, we could reduce that a little bit. That's root 2 times root 3. So I've got a root 3 left over. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. So minus 4 root 3 plus root 2. This is a similar problem. Let's see, this is going to be cosine cosine minus sine sine, pi fourths w, pi sixth w, pi sixth w, right? And so we'll use the cosine, remember, is the negative 5 over root 61. The sine is the negative 6 over root 61. Got to remember that minus sign also. Cosine of pi fourths, right, that's root 3 over 2. Of pi sixth is root 3 over 2. Sine of pi sixth is 1/2. So I have 2 root 61 in the denominator, negative 5 root 3, and here plus 6. There you have it.